from Data Privacy Brazil, an Brazilian NGO focused on study and advocacy of data protection, AI regulation, and digital rights. So I'm here today to give you some context of Brazilian regulation, what we are now, what are the next steps, and the main points of our draft bill. I'm not sure everyone is aware, but we currently have a federal bill under discussion in National Congress. So I will explain this, and then I will talk about the main topics of our draft bill and the difference between the Brazil AI Act and the European Union Act, okay? So, wait, so, yeah, better now. So, in Brazil, we have a bicameral legislative assembly. So we have the Chamber of Deputies and the Federal Senate. So as the country adopts the bicameralism, a bill laid before any of the house must be revised by the other, okay? So in both cases, we have committees, collegiate bodies that aid the legislative process when a bill is complex and involves the study of technical aspects and requires more attention. So these committees in National Congress, the Senate and in the Chamber of Deputies, they may hold public hearings, call ministers of state to handle information on matters, and receive petition, complaints, and statement from private sector, government, civil society, and academia. In the case of the draft of Brazil AI Act, in both houses, an AA committee was created. In this sense, we had various public hearings with different specialists in AI, from government, civil society, private sector, like Google, Meta in Brazil, and academia. As example, Stuart Russell participated in a seminar promoted by the Federal Senate, and Data Privacy, the NGO where I work, also participated too. So, I want to give you this brief context of Brazilian regulation because I think it can help to understand our bill, our concerns, our long process, where we are now, and also the status of the draft. Our public hearings, they finished, and now we have only 2 seminars before the vote. The expectation is the Brazilian AI Act will be voted until the end of this year, okay? So, now I will present to you the main points of the bill. Focus on why it's not a copy of a EU Act, and it's like in a Brazilian framework. In Brazil, something is very important, like all the legislation is focused on digital fundamental rights. For us, it's like a non-negotiable thing. For everyone in the parliament, so you can never flexibly fundamental rights. But compared to the European Union Act, we adopt a less prescriptive, more adaptive model, leveraging the existing regulatory infrastructure. So, everything we are building is based on our existence regulation, like Marco Civil da Internet, our General Data Protection Law. So instead of creating a new law or new structures, the draft bill is totally built on existing institutions using what already works in Brazil. For example, the draft established the Brazilian AI governance system, the CEA, which will be coordinated by an existing authority, the Brazilian National Data Protection, and also composed by existing structures, sectorial regulations across health, finance, education, and telecommunications. This network structures allows each regulation to interpret AI obligations, but it must be adaptive. The Brazilian debate also embeds a sustainability dimension, and we have a strong and explicit chapter on fundamental rights that guarantees privacy, equality, transparency, and non-discrimination. This human rights chapter is not present in the European Act, and is precisely what gives the model of Brazil so particularities. let me see, about the risks. Our bill adopts a risk-based and asymmetric approach. It doesn't treat all AI systems equally because not all systems carry the same risks. The higher the contextual risks, the heavier the regulatory duties. Excessive risk systems like social scoring, predictive policy, or autonomous weapons are prohibited. High risk systems such as biometric identification, recruitment tools, or medical diagnosis must meet strict obligations: full documentation, tests for accuracy and robustness, bias mitigation, human oversight, and transparency of results. But low risk is used, for instance, AI in agriculture or logistics face LiDAR requirements. This proportionally ensures the regulation protects rights without suffocation innovation. Another distinctive element in that our framework relies on ex post and contextual regulation. Instead of locking fixed rules in advance, regulators will supervise and adjust obligations as technologies evolve. This reduces compliance costs and keeps the framework responsive and evidence-based. It's not static, like the European model. It's living regulation. And, in contrast, the European Union Act embodies a high perspective and centralized model. It spans more than 200 pages of details obligation that risks rapid regulatory obsolescence in the effect of technology of change. So, for us, this Brazilian Aid Act, there's a lot of things to improve, but I think in the Congress, the dialogue is being really democratic. The government is hearing the private sector, the government, the civil society, and everyone is trying to find a consensus. But I think it represents a good opportunity to Brazil to be a leader in South America and to create a right-based model of AI. And I think we are in a good moment in Brazil to talk about digital markets. We are having in our Congress also the antitrust bill focused on digital markets. Now we have this draft bill on AI regulation. So I think it's a really, really important moment to us. And of course, being here today, listen to all of you is an example for what we can do. So this is my brief context of our OA regulation, and I'm open to questions.
Questions for Natasha?
Someone wants to know something about Brazil? No?
Oh, here you go.
Hi, Natasha, thanks so much for that. I think you mentioned something about how employment and hiring tools in Brazil are held at kind of a medium risk register and have requirements around them around documentation, bias mitigation. I'm curious how the vision for that will work in practice. Is the idea, for example, before a company can deploy a new tool, sell a new tool, is there a regulatory body that would approve it? Like, how is it ongoing monitoring? How would that work in practice?
I think this theme in the draft bill is more generic. It's kind of recognize that AI does not operate in a cultural vacuum, and it's embedded in labor markets. The text kind of advances provisions that acknowledge the right to meaningful work in the AI era and aim to integrate cultural rights and the protection of creative, story, and intangible heritage. But I think it's everything so, in this part of the labor is more theoretical. We don't have anything practical yet.